We are back, and it is episode
We are back.
230 of the Metal Roundtable
already.
Carcass does the finger thing always. 0.
I can't believe 230 already. Wow.
We are going to get right into it today. I'm going to do the intro real quick. First of all, we are now presented by 128dB Rock. So if you want to check that out, you can find that on my Facebook page. We've got some really cool stuff launching. 128db.com. Search it on Facebook. An online radio station like you've never heard. But today we have the great Dan Lorenzo from Architects in Black, Hades. He's played
Patriarchs in Black.
Legends.
You keep doing it.
He keeps doing that.
Patriarchs in Black.
Patriarchs in Black.
What did I say?
Architects.
Shit.
We're not live.
I just made the fucking post too. Did I do it right on the
You better
post?
check your spelling.
No,
Make
I
sure it
put
says
Architects in Black.
Patriarchs.
Patriarchs.
I'll fix it. I'm an idiot. Hey, this is how our show goes, Dan. So I will
Talking about you.
that, but we're going to roll some shout outs. Carcass is going to do his pick of the week. I'm going to back out to produce the show so that we're not all talking over each other. And these guys are going to bring you a killer show with Dan. Dan, thank you for being here. I'm going to forego any shout outs other than Lee Russell at 128dB Rock. So you guys hit it, and I will go fix the Facebook post and produce the show.
Okay, I've only got one
Thanks,
quick one because I want to get into the show, but I want to give a shout out to another New Jersey band that's a new band. This is their new EP, Martyr's Cry. It's fantastic, straightforward, heavy metal, and it's got what's the guy's name? Ronnie Monroe, who used to sing for Metal Church, singing for him. So it's actually really well done. Do you have this? You guys have this?
Nope.
Either one of you?
Don't have it. Nope.
I'm not familiar with them.
You can get this at rocksrecords.com. So anyhow, that's it. It's a fantastic release. If you're into that, new wave of traditional heavy metal stuff, it's really well done. You're up, Steve. Anything?
I got nothing this week. Passed on to John.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay. I got no shout outs, but I'll just dive right into the pick of the week. Dan, typically what we do is, for whatever reason, the mantle has fallen upon me to pick something that needs to be in your collection. So we start off with a rock pick and a metal pick because it's just too hard. There's too much great music out there. So my rock/metal pick this week is Loudness.
Under in the
East.
Classic.
And of course, a classic Japanese heavy metal band, hard rock band, and you have to have it on a Japanese pressing. So I do. Rock and Roll Crazy Nights was my introduction to them on MTV, and I've never looked back. They have so many records out there. It's unbelievable if you just do a deep dive, and I'm sure Steve, having been stationed in Japan, could attest to that. So that's
I've got about a dozen of their records, and what's cool about them is they have quite a few where they did a Japanese and an English version.
Right.
They have different track listings and then obviously different vocals too.
Which is very, very cool. Now, my heavy metal pick of the week, or my metal pick of the week, is probably no surprise. It's Hades.
Nice.
If at first you don't succeed. And this was my introduction to the band. And it's a very precious. It's on Torrid Medusa Records, and I'm not quite sure what happened because as I looked at my other copies, and maybe Dan can explain this, but they're mostly German label stuff. So I don't know if something happened, or here's one that's Metal Blade, but it's Metal Blade Germany, and then here's another one. They're all Metal Blade Germany, and one is let's see. Well, we can talk about it. Exist to Resist is on a completely different label, so
Yeah.
I don't know if they're bootlegs or what have you, but Dan, that's why you're here to set it straight. We are here, and if you see us looking down or writing something, it's not that we're not paying attention to you. It's you're the teacher. We're taking notes. So that's all I got. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if someone mentioned it last week, but I don't know if we mentioned Osric Tentacles. So Dan, that'll be your homework. You'll have to study who that band is. And
Damn it.
And so I didn't want it to slip past me. And that's for Tony Clem. The Mighty Osric Tentacles, led by Ed Wynn, who's a phenomenal guitar player. I think you would appreciate it, especially after I listened to the Architects of Patriarchs. Oh, sorry. Anyway, after listening to that, it has a similar vibe. There's some heaviness to it. There's some very great melodies. And so that'll be your homework. But all that aside, we are here to listen to you, Mr. Lorenzo. So take it away.
Well, if I'm the teacher, I want to say Steve's going to get an A just because I want to thank him for his service.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for your service, man, really. And if I'm a teacher, what does the class want to talk about? First, we got to make sure it says Patriarchs in black.
I just changed it.
Yeah, it says at the top of the screen.
There we go.
Yes.
So what are you guys most interested in? You're interested in Hades more, I bet, right?
No, I want to talk about that too, but I'd like to talk about Hades a little bit. I grabbed a few things to pick up and ask you about. I mean, you guys were formed, what, 1978?
Yeah, I started the band, and I started calling myself Dan from Hades in 1978 January, which is a couple of months before I started playing guitar, because I took Greek mythology, and I knew I was going to play guitar soon, and I was like, kind of like hemming and hawing a little bit because I thought I was too old to start playing because I was 15, and I was too embarrassed to take lessons. So the Hades singer, Paul Smith, would take lessons. He started probably playing in January, and I would ask him what he learned. So I didn't ever like being in school or having people show me how to do things. I don't know. I rather like, it's just a weird thing with I wanted to drop out of high school in the 10th grade and my parents wouldn't let me. And I'm glad I finished. And I got straight A's in music theory and harmony, thankfully, my last couple of years there. But I started Hades way back in 1978. Jimmy Shulman gets offended when I say that because he wasn't around then. But Hades was actually playing shows as a cover band in the very early 80s. And then most people know us when we put out our first release, Resisting Success, in February of 1987. But even before that, we were on Metal Massacre 6 and the first ever Megaforce compilation CD, Born to Metalize. This is back in 83 and 84. So, yeah, I've been doing it a long time. And then we broke up, but we got back together in 1999, and that's what you were talking about. We did 3 records for Metal Blade. Really not Metal Blade Germany, Metal Blade Worldwide. We had a worldwide deal with Metal Blade, and they treated us great. And then we did 3 albums in 3 years, and then that was it for Hades. We did a reunion show in 2010 in Germany with Twisted Sister in Queensryche, and that was really fun. But that was pretty much the last thing we ever did with Hades.
So the first thing you released was like what, 1982? You released a single, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, Deliver Us from Evil. Deliver Us. I'm thinking of the Exodus song. Go ahead.
Deliver Us from Evil is a funny one because I just like a year ago found out that was you on that. I thought that Hades, because I have the single, but I have it without the sleeve. I just have the single itself, and I've had that for probably 15 years. I thought that was a new wave of British heavy metal band. I didn't know that it was the same Hades from the Alan Tecchio era of Hades that I grew up with.
Well, it wasn't. I mean, it was me, myself, and the drummer Tom Coombs.
Well, I didn't know it was the same band though.
Yeah.
It just had that new wave of British heavy metal sound, and I always
absolutely.
And I always thought it was a British band until literally 3 years ago when Scrap Metal came out, and the A side is on there. And I read the write-up. I was like, "Oh, holy shit! That's And that's when I pieced that together. It was hilarious,
And I was
I've loved that song for probably 30 years,
Oh wow, yeah. So I wrote both of those songs. Paul Smith co-wrote "Girls Will Be Girls" with me in 11th grade. We wrote those.
Yeah.
So, as you imagine, those are like 2 of the first songs we ever finished. So it sounds a little silly to me now, but I appreciate how long ago it was. That's a long time ago. We're talking over 40
years. It was like
years.
what, 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
New York and New Jersey has a funny, that whole area
this one too.
Has a big thing for working class bands, and it's something I really like about that area, where the bands have 8-9 years in the clubs, before that first album comes out. It's something that's real specific to that area. You don't see that in California and those working class bands always end up being my favorites, whether it's Hades or Twisted Sisters, another one that was around for a decade. Kix was around there. They're from Boston, aren't they?
Maryland.
They were around for about 12 years before
Kix. Yeah, they're from Maryland, actually.
Okay, yeah.
But you got TT Quick, if you guys know TT Quick.
Oh, yeah.
You got
them live a few times.
Overkill,
Yeah.
And
those
Overkill were
those
around
are
for
all favorites that were around for years and years before they got signed.
Overkill were around for years before their album came out. Yep.
Absolutely, same as Hades. We were playing in some of the same clubs we played. I mean, I met Blitz probably in maybe '84 or something, like long before we were doing records.
I don't know if you've seen him lately. His voice sounds as good now as it did in 1982. Man, he cleaned himself up, and they sound amazing.
Yeah, he stopped smoking pretty much.
Yeah.
And Dan's done some work with him.
Yeah,
too. So, which what was some of that stuff with? Was that on? Was that the Cassius Kings or
no? Blitz sang with me on the Cursed Room Full of Sinners, and we're still good friends. We hung out just a couple weeks ago. I actually wrote a couple songs for him. I've asked him each Patriarchs in Black record to sing a song, and I send him a song. I'm like, you like it? He's like, I love it. I'm like, so will you sing it? He's like, no. I'm like, why? And he's like, I don't want to be one of many. I want to, do a full album with you. So I'm trying to push him to do a solo record. And I did write 2 songs for him recently, maybe even 3 actually. But there's no drums or anything to them yet. So I think he's still thinking about what he wants to do. Because I don't really have time for another band or even a band. I got a full-time job. That's why Patriarchs in Black works out so well for me. I mean, I write a lot and I record a lot. But then as soon as I finish recording, I'm done and I give it to, Johnny Kelly, and then other people sing and play bass on it. I don't know if you guys know about Patriarchs in Black. There's a different singer and a different bass player on every song.
Yes. Okay. And some great names too, including, and I don't know about these other guys, but including DMC, who I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, he's been texting me all day, actually. I wrote 3 songs for his next solo record, and we have a single together that came out for Patriarchs in Black a couple weeks ago called Welcome to Hell Again. But then I wrote a song for him called Terrific or Game Changer. It's coming out next month, with a drum machine, and D does the whole song, and it's like totally separate from Patriarchs in Black. But I've been writing a bunch of songs for him lately for his solo career.
And you've worked with some killer vocalists. I mean, there's this Lathe thing here, but I mean, this has got Jason McMaster on here, who was one of the. He can do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, from Watchtower to Dangerous Toys. I mean, it's 2 totally different styles of music, and he works for both.
And from Accept to Armored Saint, he fills in for those guys when they need him.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
Yeah,
and he's got more. I don't know how he does it because he's got so many freaking bands.
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
he's still doing Broken Teeth. He was doing some stuff with Dirty Looks.
Evil United is still a thing. He does a Judas Priest tribute band with his brother called Sad Wings.
Yeah,
he's all over the map.
Just released a live album with Dirty Looks.
Yep, it's good. It's cool.
Yeah, that he's selling directly from. I think he's selling it direct. So he's doing all the shipping and everything, as far as I know.
And if you can find it, there's a band called Activator where he plays bass and does background vocals, and it's more of a sludgy stoner rock type thing. But once again, proving that Jason McMaster could pretty much do anything.
Yeah.
So, but that's cool that you stay active even though you have a full-time job. We all have full-time gigs too, but music is our passion, but not like yours.
So let me go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but let me show you just a few albums and maybe just give us a couple thoughts about them.
Sure.
I mean, this was your big debut, really, right?
Right. Resisting Success came out in February of 1987 in America. In Europe, it had a pink cover, which none of us approved on Combat.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I've never understood that.
Neither did we, man. Neither did we. They just did it. We had no knowledge that was happening, and we were not happy when it happened. And they're trying like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's like, yeah, it's not a big deal to you, but whatever. It's been re-released many times. There's a guy named Ted Tringo in Massachusetts who just re-released a double LP of it, and it's got all the Paul Smith stuff. It's got a lot of extra stuff on there. It's really cool.
I know why it came out as pink. If they didn't tell you the real reason,
why is that?
So this was done back before the computer graphic era. Right. So back in, because I've been in printing for 40 years.
Okay.
This is a spot color, and it's a gold PMS color.
Okay.
So that gold PMS, you can't put that into a layer because it's just not. So you have to put a different color in there. Usually you put in 100% cyan or magenta. Magenta is pink. So that's what they printed, was that magenta thing, instead of printing the correct PMS color. Because the reason they did that is because it's cheaper. That's why. Yeah, because it's a 5-color process as opposed to the 4-color process by making it pink.
Wow. Thank you for that info.
Yeah.
I mean, I like I said, I've been in printing forever. So when I saw that, I'm like, that's ridiculous. That's just that was, I didn't even know about it until like one of these guys pointed it out to me, and they were like, why is it pink? And I'm like, oh, that's why it's pink.
Wow. They cheaped out. Oh well.
Yeah, if you ever see some of the some of the Taiwanese pressings and stuff like that, sometimes they're always pink because they always just press the magenta plate, and that's it.
Last step, yeah.
Now we know. Thank you.
Now you know.
The sad thing about that, though, was, when was that? 86 when that came out?
87.
87. So 87, I mean, we used to buy records by what we saw in the bins. If it looked cool, we would buy it. And honestly, if I saw that big old pink font, I would probably skip right past it.
I don't blame you.
Especially at that time,
Yeah, you were buying Twisted Sister, so I'm not
That's
quite
true.
sure.
Well,
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next one.
If at first you didn't succeed, that was so my buddy Scott LePage, who played on Resisting Success, told us he didn't want to go on tour. He wanted to go to college and take life seriously. So we had to get a new guitar player. And I was really not happy because Scott was my buddy, man. And he still is, actually. But I didn't want to switch, guitar players. I've had a problem keeping members over years. But Scott, just decided at age 19 he was too old to be in a band, and he wanted to get serious. So fortunately, we found Ed Furman, and right before that album came out, let me think about this. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. When Resisting Success came out, Scott was already out of the band. So we're playing a show to support Resisting Success the day before it comes out, or 2 days before it comes out. And we're opening up for Slayer at the Chance in Poughkeepsie. So I have an album with 5 guys, Resisting Success, that we're promoting. That's going to be out the next day. Jimmy Shulman's in the hospital with a broken leg, and Ed Furman has never played a show with us before. So it was just like, how can this keep happening to me, where people like leaving the band, even though like we're not fighting or anything, it's just circumstances. But, so If at First You Don't Succeed was, I think, a step up for us. It's probably the second most popular Hades record. Most people prefer Resisting Success. In fact, it's top 500 albums of all time in Rock Hard magazine, Germany, as well as some book in America that came out years ago. But If at First You Don't Succeed sounds a little bit better. We mixed it at Electric Lady, not Electric Lady Land. The studio is called Electric Lady. A lot of people make that mistake. And then we went to tour in Europe in May and June of 1989, and we broke up. Even though we had a new record that we loved, that we had written a third album, but we were just not getting along, and we broke up. And I came home from Europe thinking I would never be in a band again. And then a couple of days later, I wrote a song called "Know You Like a Book," and I said I'm going to start a band called Nonfiction. I don't know who's going to be in it. I'm going to do something new.
Well, first of all, I understand why this one's so popular. I mean, some of these tracks, Night Stalker, The Cross, these are all like some of your most, those songs are just like, to me, they're classics. I mean, I've heard them so many times that like I can almost sing them in my head without even, playing them.
Thank you.
That's probably why. But, and then this was actually like the goodbye thing, right?
Yeah, we had already started Nonfiction, and we still had a little love for Hades left, and we were kind of sad about the way it ended. And I think that album came out after Nonfiction's first album, Preface. And I remember being in Los Angeles doing interviews for Nonfiction Preface, and the record label was on the phone, and I said, "What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, the Hades record's actually selling better than we thought." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." But it was really live. It wasn't live at the Studio One like it says it is. It was live in a remote truck with no overdubs the night before we played the actual show, where we then dubbed in the audience. So it's a fake live album, but not like all the other bands. Like we didn't fix any mistakes. We really played it live.
Cool. I did actually. That's something I didn't know. But before we move on to, well, actually, even nonfiction has the same vocalist. I was going to say, speaking of world-class vocalists, you had one of the world-class vocalists in Hades and nonfiction. I mean, he's one of those guys I could say. He's one of those guys I could say could sing the phone book, and it would sound good.
Yeah. So when when Hades broke up, he moved to Texas to do the Watchtower thing, and he and I weren't speaking for a while, and then I think I mailed him some money that he was due, and I think he was surprised I mailed him some money. And then he asked me if I could book some shows for Watchtower up in the Northeast. So I booked a couple shows for them, and their drummer and guitar player slept in my apartment for a couple of days while they did shows. And then eventually Alan came back and he, replaced the original singer for nonfiction, who was Dan Nastasi from Mucky Pup and Dog Eat Dog.
And did he sing on all the albums?
Alan?
All the nonfiction? Yeah.
Yeah. The three.
Yeah, I thought he did. I thought he
did.
did.
The EP. Nastasi sang on this green EP, or I think it's gray on the vinyl. It's really rare. It was on Plastic Head Records. Glenn Evans actually had a little label called Arena Records, I believe, and he got Plastic Head to release it, and we got $9 for it. What's that?
Is that Glenn Evans from Nuclear Assault and CIA?
Yeah, he was in TT Quick before Nuclear Assault.
Correct.
Once again, I'm getting educated here. Where's my pen?
Yeah.
Well, I mean I grew up in New Jersey, so this was basically the New Jersey scene in the '80s that I was part of. And
right.
You remember Rock and Roll Heaven? I'm sure you were there a million times, like I was.
You know what's really funny? I don't believe I was ever there, but we did. I've been to Johnny Z's house a few times, and we got signed by Johnny Z for the Megaforce comp. But I don't think I was ever at Rock and Roll Heaven, just because it was about maybe an hour south of me, and it wasn't my place to hang. I was always at the Pyramid in Bergenfield, New Jersey.
Yeah, I hung out at the Record Collector, and gosh, there was one other one I can't think of top of my head. But anyhow, I used to go up to Rock and Roll Heaven because it was in that big flea market area.
Yeah.
He just had all the metal stuff that nobody else had, so it was a long drive because I grew up in Trenton, so.
Right. Yeah, so my first ever plane flight of my life was when I was 19. It was with Johnny Z. We flew to Rochester to Music America Studios, but I don't believe I was ever at Rock and Roll Heaven, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, cool. And then we're into nonfiction because Hades had broken up for a while, right. And you released 3 albums with nonfiction.
Yep, Preface, In the Know, and It's a Wonderful Lie. But by the time It's a Wonderful Lie came out, from what I remember, I believe I sold all my equipment because I fell in love with my girlfriend, who became my fiance, who became my wife. And I didn't want to play any shows because I didn't want any chance of going back on tour. And I had just gotten a job, and I didn't want to deviate from get a job. And the reason I got a job is I literally couldn't find a quarter for a bagel on my 31st birthday. Nonfiction had come back from Europe, and I drove some bands. I drove King Diamond. I drove Southside Johnny. I drove a bunch of different bands here and there. And I literally couldn't find a quarter for a bagel on my 31st birthday. And that hurt. That was really hurtful, and then like 30 years later, I'm sitting in a house I own. So life turned out great. But, 30 years ago, I literally didn't have a quarter for a bagel. So I stopped everything musically for a couple of years.
I understand that totally. I did something similar. I cut all my hair off when I got married, and I was like, I'm not gonna be able to find a job with my hair this long. And I had graduated from college, and was doing all the band things, and I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. I'm cutting my hair off. I'm getting the job, and then I grew it back afterwards. It was worth it. So anyhow, is there anything else you wanted to say about nonfiction before we get into more Hades?
A bunch of the re-releases just came out on Golden Core ZYX Records in Germany, and they're phenomenal. And another label, they didn't let me see the proofs, but everything they did is just amazing. They put out a double CD, including some live footage from a European tour. And it's a really good package, man. Really good. I just got the vinyl for In the Know a couple days ago, and they just did a great job. So Golden Core ZYX, and right now the first 2 Hades and all of the nonfiction is off of all the streaming services. You can't find it anywhere right now. I've been having a bunch of people DM me You think that's, I feel bad because people are like, hey man, I can't listen to you on Spotify anymore. And the reason is just that the guy who had the digital out there for us, he couldn't, something happened with the German government and taxation, but why do you say good? It's because you don't think music belongs in that platform?
Because you don't get paid for it.
You make a little bit, not Spotify, but iTunes, you do actually make money, and like CD Baby is very reputable. If you anything,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but CD Baby does some crazy stuff with YouTube and stuff where they start stealing your rights from YouTube videos.
They sure do.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It hasn't happened to me.
It's happened to me several times. It's with my own music.
I feel
like you can't. I got because I have my own YouTube channel as well, and once I got up there and hit like 10,000 viewers, all of a sudden I was getting all these weird things happening from CD Baby, and because my intro was some of my own music,
right.
They're like, you can't use that music. I'm like, it's my music, I own it. I had to fight with them about it, and then they still denied it. You got to be freaking kidding me! This is ridiculous.
I think sometimes labels will pull that stuff so they can sell physical copies, and then once they get to a certain point, then they put it all back up there. I know that
Baby's a weird one where if you've ever done anything through them, even if they don't own the rights to it, they put it in their algorithm and they go after it, and you got to fight them to get them to stop.
But I'm glad they haven't ripped you off at least.
I get a check from them, a little, $20 here, every week, pretty much, Oh,
that's good. Yeah, that's not wrong with that.
Are you on Bandcamp? No, you are on Bandcamp because
the link is in the chat.
I really like that platform because I think that bands tend to get paid more often and more of a percentage. And
and I had a guy give me $100 tip for the first Patriarchs in Black album, which was really nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
nice.
That's like they do the minimum price on Bandcamp, don't they? Yeah,
right.
So then, then we'll move on to back into Hades, and then we'll get into Patriarchs in Black, and we could pump your new album and the other two. So we did the live album. That's this one, right?
Yep.
This thing's got more than one cover. I've seen a bunch of different covers for that thing.
Covers that I've seen on that one.
I've never seen the live one, so now I'm on the hunt.
It's a pretty good album. We like it. We all like it.
I like it a lot. I've listened to it a bunch of times.
I've got the one with the band shot on the front cover. It's like a white cover with you guys on the
And then there's this was the next one, right? Or the first?
Yeah, that just came out again on MDD Records in Germany, and that's probably everybody's in Hades' favorite album. Exist to Resist. We kind of dig it because it has a little bit of the combination of when Hades broke up and I started Nonfiction, and there's a song called Doubt that I wrote for Nonfiction, but then Nonfiction we kind of fizzled out and we finished It's a Wonderful Lie, and I didn't get to show the band what became the song called Doubt. So Doubt is basically Hades playing a Nonfiction song. And we really love that album, actually.
This I've had this one forever. This is on Brainstorm Records.
Yeah, Brainstorm Division.
A couple different labels as well. Yeah, it just came out again on MDD Records in Germany.
Yeah, you've got a lot of reissues coming out. Matter of fact, I mean,
so
tons
many
of them. Yeah, because one of the labels that I work for is releasing 3 albums, I believe.
Yep.
This being one of them, so I might as well pump it while I got it out.
Sure.
Save Yourself, which I've always loved this album.
It never came out on vinyl.
No, never.
The video was for a song called Active Contrition, which is one of my favorite Hades songs, actually. So yeah, I'm glad you guys are putting that out on vinyl. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be coming out on Purple Haze vinyl.
Nice.
Which is
it's Hades vinyl.
No, Purple Haze. It's. I thought about that. We talked about it, but they were like, no, that's just goofy. I'm like, all right, well, then it's Purple Haze vinyl. So what it is, it's a clear vinyl, and then it's got purple smoke running through the whole thing.
Awesome.
So it should look pretty neat. I mean,
when will that be out?
It's in production. Once we get a ship date, he'll start doing pre-orders, and I'll send you guys ads and everything else to post up there. But vinyl production right now is 3 to 4 months, so that's why he's holding out on.
Was good, awesome.
Yeah. Oh, way better than it was. It was like
it was a year,
11, 12 months a couple years ago. So
crazy.
Anyhow, is there anything you wanted to say about this one?
No, just check out the video for Active Contrition. I think it's one of my favorite Hades songs.
Cool. And then we went with The Downside, which also has more than one cover.
Yeah, I
Check it
think
out.
that's. I'm going to say this. They might get mad at me, but Alan and Ed Furman's Peak is the best stuff they ever thought of for Hades on that album, in my opinion. That was the best they ever wrote their parts. I'm really happy with what they did on that album.
I think this album's phenomenal, and
Yeah.
this too is coming out on vinyl.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the color of the vinyl is going to be, but yeah, it's going to be limited run. I can't remember what the numbers are. Was it? Do you remember? Was it like 250 vinyl units or something like that, or 300 units, something like that? But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting this one on vinyl. I'm a vinyl collector, and obviously I do CDs too. But I don't know. I'm excited about it. Anything you wanted to add about that one?
No, just that R.I.P. Dave Lisinski. He was the drummer on
Yeah.
Save Himself and the Downside, and he passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we put he's going to have a little tribute inside the vinyl. So
Well, I do appreciate the fact that you used no lawyers, managers, or cover songs when you made the CD, according to the.
Yeah, I mean, I fucking hate music attorneys, man. They are such bullshitters. Like, I remember this one guy in New York City. He's like, I always be like, can't we just have like a one-page contract? He'd be like, oh, I wish we could do that, but we have to protect you. Such a bullshit artist, like. And it's like, I know damn well they would call our record label and say, hey, how are the kids? What's going on? Yeah, Susie got her braces. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They bullshit you. All these contracts you get over the years, they mean nothing, because either you're going to sell enough records and want to continue because the label's going to treat you right, or you're going to be like this, and then that's it. So we gave up on signing contracts. Like Metal Blade asked us to sign a one-page deal memo, basically just saying that we could call it Hades as long as it was Alan and I. They didn't care, who else was in the band, really, in a sense. But yeah, those contracts and the lawyers are just fucking like, they're little scavengers trying to get they're failed musicians for the most part, and they're trying to get a couple dollars in their pocket, and I don't like them.
I don't blame you. I remember when my band got our first contract offer, it was this multi-page crazy crap that I was like, all these college words that you were like, what? Yeah. So at the time, our drummer was working for an attorney, so he took it to his attorney, and he happened to be an entertainment attorney. Awesome. And he read the whole contract over, and he didn't charge us because of him working there. Right. And he gave it back to him. He goes, if you guys sign this, you're nuts.
Yeah.
He's like, why? He goes, well, first of all, he goes, you have to record at whatever studio they put you in and pay whatever prices they want you to pay, and you have to pay all that back. And then he goes, and they're charging you for everything, every ad, everything they do, they're charging you for. And he goes, and the problem is, he goes, if you read at the very end of the contract, after the music's done, they can shelve the album, never put it out, and you still owe them the money.
Yeah. So what I used to do in those situations is put a big X, initial DL, send it back. If you want it, take it. And they always took it, We never had any fights. After you realize that they put those crazy things in there, but just exit out an initial and send it back, and then let them decide if they still want to put it out. And they always do.
Cool. So this is where we left off, right? So this just recently came out on vinyl.
Yeah, Damnation. Not my favorite Hades album. Say again. I'm sorry.
What year was that? That's one I don't have.
That was 4 months before September 11th. So it must have been June of 2001. And we didn't like that cover after September 11th at all. And it was kind of like meant the picture was done by a Polish guy, and we didn't disapprove of it. But I think we were so angry at Bill Clinton and the O.J. Simpson trial. We were just so pissed off around that time about stuff going on in America. That album title had been there for a while. Not really a political statement, just like sort of like, we can do better. We can do better than this,
Yeah. And this is I thought this was a return to a little thrashier sound. You?
Yeah, probably was. Yeah. For no reason, just that's what happened to be written. But yeah, there's a song called BioCost on there that might be the fastest Hades song we ever did. And it featured Ron Lipnicki on drums. That was Ron Lipnicki's first album. And then he came to my at a Super Bowl party where he met Blitz. And a few months later, he was doing his first shows with Overkill, and he played with Overkill for 10 years.
Yep. I met him a couple times with Overkill. Oh my gosh, that guy is like just he's. I mean, it's weird to say about a guy, but he's like a sweetheart. He's just such a nice guy. So anyhow, that was the last of the Hades, right? That was the last thing you guys released.
That was it. Yeah.
But then you did a bunch of other bands. I don't have everything, but we did talk a little bit about this one, which you released.
Cassius King, yeah. So Cassius King, that was kind of right after COVID because Nathan Opposition, I was doing a band called Vessel of Light, and we put out 4 albums in 3 years, and I fucking love Vessel of Light. Vessel of Light was in my heart. Like, we did 10 shows and COVID hit. But while we were doing those shows, Nathan Opposition was living in Cleveland, and I would like fly him out and pay for his hotel. And, that's not cheap. So we were doing 10 shows and COVID hits, and then he moved to Austin, and we were about to we got offered to do some Doom Festival, and he was getting money from the government at that point. I'm like, yo, can you pay for yourself to fly yourself up? He's like, oh, I'm not going to pay to fly myself. I'm like, you know what? I've been laying out like $12,000 a year on Vessel of Light. I think it's time to move on. And that's when I did the 2 Cassius King albums with Jason McMaster and Ron Lipnicki on drums and my buddy Jimmy Shulman on bass. We did 2 albums with Cassius King. And that's for people who love Hades, Cassius King is a lot more like Hades than anything else I've ever done. So if you only like my work in Hades, you should check out Cassius King because you might like that. But right now I'm all about Patriarchs in Black. And like you guys said at the start, we're releasing our 3rd album in 3 years. It's called Visioning, and it will be out July 19th on Metalville Records.
Yep. I placed a pre-order for that one. This is actually the first one I bought.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. I loved it. I mean, that's definitely different from Hades and nonfiction and all that. I don't know, doomier? Is that the right word? Slower, grungier, heavier? I don't know what the word is, but
I think it's the same thing as nonfiction, just with different singers and different bass players. To me, it's like that's what Patriarchs in Black is. It's just like The Cursed is nonfiction, or it could have been. They're very similar, you know?
Yeah, right. I really like that Cursed album.
Thank you.
Kind of a doomy sound as well.
Yeah.
Really dug that one. I'd like to see that one on vinyl too, actually.
So would we. Blitz and I were trying to get a deal, but he wants a lot of money. So we've been offered, minimal amount of money. But I've told him he can keep the money. I just want it back out there. And so does the drummer Mike Christie, who's my buddy as well, who was in nonfiction. Mike played on the Cursed album, Room Full of Sinners. But there's only like 3 songs on YouTube. But if you never heard Bobby Blitz sing Low and Bluesy, go on YouTube and put in The Cursed Room Full of Sinners or The Cursed Bobby Blitz, and songs are slamming.
And actually, I heard it. I didn't know it was Bob because I think somebody played it. I heard it from somebody else, and then I ended up grabbing. I was like, "There's no way that's Bobby," you know. But yeah, it's great.
Totally different. Yeah.
There's also the second album, which I don't know. I mean, I'm new to these. I only picked these up this year, so.
Okay.
But this one blew me away so much that I immediately searched for this one and pre-ordered the new album.
Thank you. Thank you.
I like all the different vocalists, and I even like. You'd think that DMC would be an odd fit, but it actually works.
Yeah, and it works even more in the new single, "Welcome to Hell Again," which just came out. But it's really fun. Imagine if your whole life you're in bands, no matter who the singer is, you have a handful of friends or a handful of reviews who say, I love the music, but I don't like the singer. And I've had that my whole life. But now you got Patriarchs in Black. I'm like, all right, you don't like Mark Sunshine? How about Kelly Abe? You don't like Kelly Abe? How about Rob Traynor? You don't like Rob Traynor? How about Mark Sunshine? It's just Carla Gell, whoever. Different singer every song, and it's really, really fun. I'd have a hard time being in a band again because then you're stuck with one bass player and one singer. And to me, this is like, it's phenomenal.
So is that the kind of the theory moving forward with more Patriarchs in Black? You'll just kind of
I hope so.
on that and just keep putting out great records?
I hope so. But as I'm saying that, like I said, I did write 3 songs for DMC, and he had me play on them as well. And then I'm writing a couple songs for Blitz again. But right now, that's just what I'm really into. But I mean, I really would love to write songs for other bands because I've been on a streak where I released 9 albums in the last 8 years, and I already have 5 songs written for the next Patriarchs in Black album. That hopefully the 4th album. 3 songs I wrote for DMC, 3 songs I wrote for Blitz. So I haven't written a song in I'm not kidding, 2.5, 3 weeks, And that's like a long stretch for me not to write a song. So I would love to write songs for bands that are, have record deals. Not like kids sitting in a garage, but bands who actually have a record deal,
Right. One of our listeners said you have Kyle Thomas from Exhorter.
Right.
Oh.
Which is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that dude.
Phenomenal. Good stuff, Fraser Dawson. I forgot to mention Kyle. Amazing that I never met Kyle, but I was a big fan of Alabama Thunder Pussy. And then I just sent him a DM. I said, would you be into this? He did it. And it's like phenomenal. Like all these people who say yes. The only people who said no to me is I sent a text to Rex Brown and I said, hey, Rex, I know you're on tour, but, what would it cost you to do a song for Patriarchs in Black to play bass on one song? And he's like, I'd seriously do it for free, but I can't contractually right now. So I don't know if that was, I take him for his word, but he's one of the few people who just say, I can't do it. And then we tried to get a hold of Phil Anselmo before they got back together. And I tried to get a hold of John Bush, but that hasn't happened yet. But those are the only guys who I went after who didn't do anything with Patriarchs in Black yet.
That same person said, how about James Rivera from Hellstar?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I don't know his voice that well. I haven't heard it in 30 years, but I'll have to check that out.
He's a friend of the show. He's a long time.
He's still phenomenal, Dick. He's probably better than he. Man,
he just makes the adjustment. I mean, for age, kind of like Halford had to. 10 years ago, but he still has it, and he's still. In fact, my fiance and I went out to Utah for a football game. And just ran into him randomly at a place called the Aces High Saloon in downtown Salt Lake, of all places. And he was doing a tribute thing where he sang a song off of from every band he'd ever been in.
Wow.
Including Vicious Rumors and Hellstar.
Does he live in Salt Lake City? Or I thought he was
No. He just has a huge following out there, and his tribute thing, that's where the core of the band is. It used to be in Vegas. But now it's in Salt Lake City, of all places, and it's just logistically, it's easy for him to go pick up guys and go to Seattle, San Francisco, LA, Vegas, whatever, and then come back. But yeah, I don't know. That might be that's someone I know I could call him, and I'd say, hey, would you be into this? And I bet he would be. He's always moving. He's like a shark. Yeah. If he stops swimming, he drowns. Sounds like you have the same kind of attitude.
He's a lot.
Sounds like
he's
me.
A lot like Jason McMaster, a million bands all at one time. Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm going to be in Salt Lake City for the first time in my life in October.
Awesome. Yeah, we might see you out there because we usually go out for a football game.
Oh, okay.
And I went to school out there.
Oh,
and,
nice.
And we always try to at least take in one game. But yeah. Anyway.
Do you know Joe Altier?
Who?
Joe Altier.
Name sounds familiar.
Brand New Sin.
He sang for Brand New Sin for 2 years, 20 years. The dude, he's another one of those guys who can sing the phone book, and he has this. It's different. It's not like the high 80s style. He's got more of a growly, grungy singing voice.
Yeah, I like that. Rap. I prefer that. I don't like I'm a Paul Di'Anno guy. In fact, I'm trying to get Paul Di'Anno to sing a song in the next album.
That's kind of more his speed. It's not.
Yeah.
He's from.
I'm not into Dickinson at all.
He's from the New York City area, so I was just wondering maybe you might know him. That's all. But
no,
we had him on the show not too long ago, and geez, the dude's freaking awesome. You know what? I'm gonna make a note. I'm gonna send you one of his albums.
In fact, you go to his Facebook page, and he just sits down at the piano, and he takes everything from top 40 pop to heavy metal to blues or whatever, and he just acclimates, and he sits down and plays a melody, and it's pretty impressive. I didn't know much about him when we had him on the show a month ago or so, and I went to his page, and man, every day he's got a new style or a new song out. It's really pretty cool. That might be it. We're building up towards the next Patriarchs in Black, so that's cool.
Yeah. Visioning.
For the Patriarchs in Black, I like the art direction you're going with that band. I like all the artwork that the Bandcamp for all the songs and stuff is really killer artwork.
Thanks.
More so than I remember from Hades or
Nothing Pink for Patriarchs in Black.
No, it's really cool, really dark artwork. I really dig it.
This thing's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, on this little screen, it probably looks just like a black with a shadow, but man, there's all kinds of killer details in there.
Yeah, that's actually my guitar in there. This guy named Josh Sultan, who goes by Josh Anonymous from North Carolina, he did that artwork. I love that
Flip it
too.
over too. I think the back is the heart, right?
Oh, that's Mark Sunshine did that. Yeah, Mark Sunshine's a really talented guy. He's in a band called Unita, and he did the artwork for the back, the heart.
Yeah, show the heart on the back of that, Scott.
On the back of which one?
That right there.
Oh,
yeah, that's a really killer picture too.
So we have a bunch of people, a lot of people watching at the moment. Anybody has any questions, get them in now because we're running out of time. I also will say that we've put the Cursed video up on all of our different channels that the show runs through, the Metal Roundtable page and the Metal Rob page and all that different stuff. So if anybody's looking for that video, we also put up a link to Joe Waltier's channel if anybody's interested, since we're talking about him.
And I see somebody's writing, where can we get a CD? If you go on Google, you'll find it, both of them or all three of them. You know, whether you want to use Amazon or your favorite local store, you can pre-order Patriarchs in Black third album Visioning now. The pre-orders are pretty much available from every store, whatever. If you guys know a store that sells metal, you can pre-order it from them. The distribution on the third album with Metalville is going to be really, really good compared to the first two. But if you Google, you know, nowadays you Google anything, you'll find this, whether you want CD or vinyl, it's out there.
Yeah, I was able to find it really easy. I think I talking to you about the Hades and ended up buying it the same day. Was that? Yeah. And it wasn't expensive. You can get. It's not like it's hard to find, or it's not archival pricing yet.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a few years ago, because I've had this thing forever. I remember a few years ago, this thing was selling for like, $80, $90 on vinyl. It's like,
well, hopefully Steve and John will get a copy as well. Hopefully they'll support.
Of course.
Absolutely. I went to the first three Hades albums.
But I only care about Patriarchs in Black right now and Vessel.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, I already. Actually, it's funny. Scott told me about the bands we were talking about a couple days ago, and I ended up pre-ordering the new album. So
yeah, and check out Vessel of Light, please, guys. To me, that stuff is just brutal.
I just wrote that. That's what I was writing down earlier, so I will be checking that out right after the show.
Well,
but also, anybody looking, we just put links up to where you can buy the albums on Amazon on the site too.
Yep. I mean, I have written down the live album by Hades and the one from 2001, Vessel of Light, Cash is King, and then of course the Patriarchs in Black and the Cursed. I'm going to look for the Cursed too.
That's going to be tough to get, but you'll love it. Blitz on vocals.
I'll find it. I have sources. I have sources with leverage, but
people ask me about that.
Yeah.
But
well, we're trying to get a label to re-release it, but I come cheap. Blitz doesn't come cheap, so he wants a couple dollars if we're going to re-release it. But
well, we know a guy that
got to get some loan from the First National Bank for Blitz.
Yeah, there you go.
Speaking of the reissues, we didn't even talk about it, but the Hades. It slipped my brain. What's the other album we're releasing, Dan?
Well, Save Yourself. The Lost Fox Studio Session.
The Lost Fox Studio albums. That's a double
on CD.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
So there's
it's a double. It's going to be a double album vinyl. It's remastered by this guy named Rob Caldwell, who's fantastic. I heard the tracks. It sounds fantastic. Awesome. I can't wait to hear the test pressings. So, by the way, Dan, just so you know, that's had nothing to do with. They are releasing the 2 studio albums first, and then they're going to be releasing the Lost Fox studio albums down the road.
That works.
So they're not going to do all 3 at one time.
What was the story? What was the story of the Lost Fox sessions?
So that was because, all right, so some of it was because even though people love Resisting Success, we sort of liked the way we did it live better, like live in the studio. And before we did If at First, and before we did the third Hades album that never came out, the one that would have been in 1990, we recorded songs live in the studio, and they kind of just sat there for years. And then somebody came to me and wanted to put them out. So I said, all right, cool. And if you've never heard Hades before, I don't think it's the first album you should start with, but if you love Hades, it's kind of interesting to hear. And you might think some of the stuff live in the studios almost sounds a little better. than the stuff on Resisting Success or If at First, just because it's live and you can kind of hear everything that's going on a little bit better, you know?
So was that 89, 90 when that was recorded?
Over a couple of years, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably even 86 and 86,
Oh, okay, wow.
87, 88, 89. Yeah.
And then it also has the original version of The Cross on there from 1983.
Okay.
Which is a different singer, right?
Yes, John Calora, who passed away too. Yeah, that's never been released on vinyl, so that should be a cool one.
Oh, I didn't know that he passed away.
Yeah, John Calora.
We should. Do you want to add? I don't know if it's too late. It's probably
It's
too
okay.
late.
It's okay. None of us were super close to him. I mean, he was a singer in a Judas Priest tribute band, and the way we kicked him out of the band was he was supposed to show up for a recording studio on a Sunday. We booked time. We paid for the time. He played a show with his Judas Priest band on a Saturday night, never showed up to the studio. So we kicked him out. Then my mom kicked me out of my house, and the other guys in the Hayes like, look, we can't deal with this guy, John, anymore. So it was, I hate to talk, bad about the dead, but he didn't leave a good taste in our mouths. It wasn't a good experience working with him. And then years later, I saw him, and he always was apologized and saying, me and you, we got to start a band right now. And it's like, dude, it's like 1996 or whatever. It's like, it's not happening right now. It's like, we missed it. You should have had this attitude 10 years ago. We would have gotten somewhere.
Right.
But he was a great singer. Sounded like Dio, sort of,
Yeah. So that was never released on anything, was it? That song?
Not that I can think of, no.
Yeah, me either. So yeah, that'll be on the. Well, I mean, it's on this, but this is, I think, the only version it's on.
Yeah, but what is that?
This is the lost. This is the original.
Yeah, is that available? That's the question.
You can find the CD
sold
on
out for years.
Stuff. Yeah, you got to get
you
copy.
You can get them on Discogs.
I'd rather have it on vinyl anyway. But
the vinyl's coming out, and the vinyl's going to sound phenomenal.
Cool.
So, yeah, I can't remember what color the vinyl is on that one either, but it's colored vinyl. It's a double album. It's gatefold. It's really nice, and it's got a new cover too. I mean, it's got a similar vibe to this because we didn't want to lose the vibe, but we went full color, and you saw it, Dan.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
It came out really nice.
Definitely.
So, hey Rob Caldwell, we are hitting our hour, so we probably need to start winding this down.
Yeah. Hey, I am thrilled that I got to work on those reissues, Dan, and Scott did a killer job on the artwork. I know y'all worked more together, but yeah, man, they came out great. I'm very pleased.
Good.
Yeah, I heard the DDPs, and yeah, they sound phenomenal.
Awesome. Yeah, we're psyched. We're happy. Thanks for doing that, guys.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll let you right now. Matthew Hunt, who is the owner of that label that's putting it out, he is a huge Hades fan, and he has been since he was young. But he grew up in a very strict home where he was only allowed to listen to Christian rock and like somehow that first Hades album slipped in, and he was able to get, I don't know if it's the lyrics or what it was, so that's how he became a fan.
Funny. And the Cross and Widow's Might, people actually said to me, like, it's almost like we're Striper, there's a single with those two songs, and they're both, pro God songs.
Right. And so anyhow, he's a huge fan, and he's oddly enough, besides being the owner of a couple different labels, he's also a pastor of a church. Right. But I've never quite met a pastor quite like him.
I'm sure.
I'll tell you a quick story before we go. When I started working with him, I was talking to him on the phone about something, and I can't remember what it was, but I said, "Oh, that sucks." And I paused, and I said, "Ooh, sorry, I just said sucks to a pastor." And then he paused on the other end. He comes back. He goes, "Yeah, you fucking heathen." I laughed so hard. I mean, you just never would expect that coming. Yeah. He's like, it was just the perfect comedic timing.
Well, if they're normal, they're people too. They're not that different than us.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what Matt is. He's just a super nice guy, and he puts out the music he loves. And man, when he found out he could possibly release some Hades stuff, he was all over that.
That's awesome. We're happy to hear. That's great.
So, right on. Well, cool. So, if anybody's looking, do you guys have other than the Bandcamp, do you guys have any other websites you want people to check out?
We just got a Patriarchs in Black got a Facebook page, but I don't know how to do Facebook. So it's Patriarchs in Black with no spaces in between. So it's a little difficult to find, just Patriarchs in Black. And then we're on Instagram. But yeah, just, July 19th, Visioning comes out. I really feel like it's one of the best albums of my life. It's really diverse. There's no clunkers. There's a lot of different singers like Kyle Thomas from Exorder, Jason McMaster, Carl Legel, Mark Sunshine, Kelly Abe, and Rob from Blackwater Rising. I think it's a great album. I hope all of you guys check it out. It would make me happy if you did. And also check out Vessel of Light, please.
Yeah, I wrote that one down. I don't know how I missed that.
I know that I wasn't really on the show because I was producing today, but I took so many notes and I posted so much shit. So hopefully we can drive some people your way to those bands.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. I had fun with you guys.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks.
You're welcome anytime. And what we like to tell anybody that's been on the show, you don't have to come on and plug your bands if you don't want to. Of course, we love that. If you want to talk about Kiss, come on the show. If you want to talk about music formats, come on the show. Boxing, we don't care. So the red carpet is rolled out anytime you want to be on.
Thank you so much, guys.
We're sitting at the juice bar, not the regular bar, Dan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're at the we're getting a smoothie and talking about metal and music. It's in it, so you don't
I'll
have
meet you at the regular bar, but I'll just be drinking the Poland Spring if you don't mind.
There you go.
Now there's some of us in that crowd too. So yeah, you're in good company.
Cool.
All right, well, that is it for episode 230 of the Metal Roundtable. You know how we do it. We throw the horns at the end and we say metal will prevail. And so until next time, metal will prevail. Thanks again, Dan.
Take care, guys. Have a great